We do have two financial sponsors for the second year in a row, and I want to recognize them and give them a minute or two to do a little plug for their companies. And I want to welcome Jeff Sullivan, president of the New Valley Bank.
Good afternoon, everybody. So for those of you who didn't see that, I almost just spilled that gentleman's lunch all over somebody's lap when I tried to stand up. So I am a charm school dropout. Good to see you here tonight, this afternoon, and we're proud, New Valley's proud to be sponsoring for the second year in a row. Not much going on in the banking world. It's been a pretty boring year. Let's see what happened in the last year. So we just celebrated our 4th anniversary of being open, happy about that. Thank you. Crossed the 300 million in asset mark this quarter as well. So, and how's that deposit thing going? You want to know, Jeff? Hey, how is that deposit thing going? Fortunately, I can say that we are up almost 9% in deposits year to date. So we are getting tremendous support from the local community. People are continuing to do business with us. They're parking their deposits with us. They've got good faith in not only us, but the entire community banking system across the valley, which is very strong and vibrant. And we compete with each other, but we really support each other as well, and try to provide a good location for us. So my message today, real quick, New Valley Bank, we are really about technology plus service. We're a small bank. We provide terrific service, but we've got great products. So if we can help you at all, and things that you may not have thought about, deposit insurance checkup. So if you want to think about your family, your business, do you have the right kind of deposit insurance coverage? Even if you don't do business with us, we're happy to sit with you and talk about that. Fraud prevention. Wire fraud is a huge issue these days. Our people will sit with you and help to talk about best practices to keep keep the fraud at bay, and also deposit accounts. We've got some great deposit rates for not only businesses but for individuals, and so think about it as an employee benefit. We're happy to come into your place of business and to help you to help your employees maximize the savings that they're getting. Let them take part in this high interest rate environment that we're going through. So I appreciate the minute, and I'll try to keep it to that. And I am Raymond's warm-up act, so thanks again.
Thank you, Jeff, and thanks again to New Valley. And Raymond is the keynote, I guess, here. Again, Common Capital and really Raymond's whole team. I just really want to thank, and the affiliation with Wayfinders as well is really important to this region for a whole lot of opportunities that they help to create, particularly for our smaller, local, minority-owned businesses. And they, again, for the second year in a row, are a sponsor. So without any further ado, Raymond.
Thank you. Thank you. I like being warmed up by bankers because I'm a recovered banker myself. So I am Raymond Lanza-Weil, president of Common Capital, which is the only community development financial institution, or CDFI, based in Western Mass that serves small businesses. We're also the #1 SBA microlender in the entire state. And we're pleased once again to sponsor this annual meeting. Thanks. I am joined by the rest of our small but mighty team, and I'm going to introduce them as I always try to do. Jay Kozak, Loan Officer, Roberto Nieves, Director of Outreach and Communications, Kim Gahn, our Loan Fund Manager, Callie Niezgoda-Flanagan, our Director of Lending, and Emil Farjo, our Business Assistance Manager. And I'd also like to recognize the Chair of our Board of Directors, Jim Hickson of Berkshire Bank, sorry, Jeff, and another board member here, Rick Sullivan. Our vice chair, Keith Ferry from Wayfinders is here, and our colleague, John Bidwell. Thank you all for being here today. I'm pleased to report that in the last year, we've strengthened our partnership with the EDC. This effort has largely been led by Roberto Nieves, who works closely with Xiomara Xiomara, on the Anchor Collaborative, as well as assisting the 45 small local businesses that are being displaced from the Eastfield Mall, among other projects. And we continue to collaborate and build our working relationship with host Ross Gibaldi, who I think is here, of Valley Venture Mentors. All of this is to support businesses and entrepreneurs in our region. And that's why community loan funds like Common Capital exist, to expand economic opportunities and support vibrant communities by providing access to capital for small businesses, especially those owned by people of color, people with low to moderate incomes, women, and immigrants. And in the coming year, as we think about ways to continue increasing the vibrancy and the economic well-being of our region, I hope everyone in this room and everyone in your companies and organizations will focus on the smaller businesses in our communities. They are the Main Street businesses and the mom and pop shops that form the backbone of our economy. And I've been cut off. And they are the job creators that we need now and always. Thank you.
Yeah, no, just for the record, that was Steve Carey that cut you off, not me. I did want to recognize two individuals that are here. Representative Shirley Arriaga is here someplace. Oh, over there. Thank you for being here. And a new member to the Governor's Administration, Kristen Alekno, who is now the Western Mass Director for the Governor's Office, is here as well. You will start to see more of Kristen at our meetings as they have an invitation to come to all of our meetings as we build a stronger relationship with the Western Mass office here. So thank you for being here, Kristen. And I won't introduce all the CEOs because I would A, miss somebody, and B, make a mistake. But I did want to recognize Mr. Wong from CRRC. Had the opportunity earlier today to tour the facility here in Springfield, where not only are the orange lines and the red lines being assembled, but also the LA cars are being assembled, and now the Philadelphia cars, which are really cool looking because they're double deckers. And so there's a lot of work and a lot of jobs, and they're looking for another 75 to 100 employees to expand even further. So thank you for being here. And he's in the line of sight if you're going to tell me the same individual. Representative Saunders, you've got a lot of friends because they are all just waving, and this is why we don't introduce people because I forget. So is that the same one you were going to give me, Kristen? Yeah, okay, there we go. So everybody, thank you very much, Representative, for being here as well. So with that, I am going to hand it over to the EDC board chair, and I will come back in a minute or two and talk about Tricia. But as we move through our meeting, it will be run by our chairwoman who is finishing her second complete year as chair, and it's my honor and privilege to bring forward Chairperson Tricia Canavan.
Thank you, Rick, and welcome everybody. I'll be very brief. You'll be hearing from a few of us sort of in round robin today, so I'll be back shortly, but I'm so pleased that all of you took the time out of your busy schedules to be here at the EDC's annual meeting. It's an exciting time for Western Mass and the EDC, and we're glad to have you with us. So with that, I'm going to introduce the first vice chair, soon to be board chair, Christina Royal.
Good afternoon. Great to see everyone in person here today. In terms of the approval of the minutes, hopefully you had a chance to look at those. Karen sent them out. And I'd like to ask for a motion to accept the minutes. Okay. Second? All right. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any abstentions or nays? Okay, the motion passes. I am now going to turn it over to Steve Lowell for the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Christina, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to report that the EDC continues to be in a very strong financial position. Net income for the 2 months ending April 30th is $433,170 versus a budgeted gain of $3,335. We're well ahead of budget. A reminder, though, that the budget will trend back in line as the lion's share of members' dues have already been received this year. As of April 30th, 92% of the 2023 contributions billed through the month of April have been paid in full. The EDC has also received 73% of the state grant for 2023. That grant is $230,000, and we've received $172,500. We anticipate payment in full by the end of June. The governor and the House included the grant program in their respective 2024 budgets, both at a statewide funding level of $1 million. The Senate proposed budget has also included the line item, but at $2 million. The Senate budget level, reflects level funding from the current fiscal year. The budget process, according to Rick, is running historically to form. Senate has always been a more robust supporter. We'll be tracking it closely, and we'll let you know how we make out. Payroll expense variances relate to actual staffing at our affiliates, and the Springfield Works expenses of $300,000 are 100% offset by grants and contributions. And I'd refer you to the income statement for any other variances to the budget. They're very, very small. And that's my report.
All right, the next agenda item is that we have a proposed vote to be considered by the members of the Economic Development Council of Western Massachusetts. The vote is for the Executive Committee recommending to the membership that Section 4.1 of the bylaws of the cooperation be and hereby is amended in its entirety to read as follows. The Board of Directors may elect from its number an executive committee of not more than 8 directors, which shall be consist of, to the extent applicable, of the chair, first vice chair, second vice chair, treasurer, clerk, immediate past chair, and up to 2 at-large members provided by the directors or the law, 2 at-large members who shall serve at the pleasure of the Board of Directors. Unless otherwise provided by the directors or by law, the executive committee shall have and may exercise all of the powers of the directors in the interim between meetings of the Board of Directors. The executive committee may make rules not inconsistent herewith the holding and conduct of its meetings. So for this change of the executive session part of the bylaws, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt the bylaws changes as presented. Okay, second. All right. All those any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any nays or abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Next item is the report of the Executive Committee. And in accordance with the bylaws, the Executive Committee recommends to the membership the following nomination of directors for an election of a 3-year term. Ellen Cummings, Verizon; Charlie Demore, Big Y; Paul Basito, Davis Foundation; Deborah Bistoli, Mercy Medical Center; Eric Weinstein, Mass Mutual; and myself, HCC. Daniel Moriarty, Munson Savings; Sam Sakura, Bay State Health; Peter Carmichael, Six Flags New England; Sean Pace, Eastman Chemical; and Tricia Canavan, Tech Foundry. So I'd like to call for a motion to elect the directors of the board as presented. Okay, second. All right. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any abstentions or nays? Okay, motion passes. And the next item is the election of affiliate directors. In accordance with the amendment to our bylaws, the Executive Committee recommends the membership this slate of affiliate directors comprised of the chairs of each organization to be elected to a 1-year term. We have Barbara Jean Deloria, Springfield Regional Chamber; Barry Roberts, Amherst Business Development District, Gene Cassidy, Greater Springfield Convention and Visitors Bureau, James Hickson, Springfield Business Improvement District, Eric Bissonette, east of the River 5 Town Chamber, John Liberia, Westover Metropolitan Development Corporation. So I'd like to call for a motion to elect the affiliate directors as presented. Second? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any nays or abstentions? Okay, motion passes. So now I am going to invite up Rick Sullivan for his president's report.
So I am going to be really quick. I just wanted to first, again, thank everybody for being here and reflect on the fact that I am now in my 9th year, so I guess I can't call this my new job anymore. But when we came to my first meeting, there was about 56 dues-paying members at the time. We open here today with 93. So I think that the importance of the EDC has always been the men and women that sit around the table. And as that table has grown and reflects more of the community, I think that is the importance and that is the value that the EDC brings to the table. It's the voice, it's the larger voice of the region, particularly on business matters, and that is because you all sit and are members of the EDC. So we can't lose sight of that. So thank you for really leading Western Massachusetts in so many ways. We also are having a few individuals that are kind of segueing off of our executive committee in particular, and I wanted to recognize them. Katie Allen Zobel, who has been our clerk. Are you going to come up and say something? Okay. There used to be, come on up, Katie. There used to be a tradition of giving everybody a plaque, and it's like, as somebody who's got a cardboard boxes full of those, we don't do that anymore. So we will be making a donation in Katie's name to the Community Foundation of Western Massachusetts. So with that, I wanted to thank Katie and give her an opportunity to say something.
Rick just sprung this on me just now. I want to say thank you to Rick for his leadership and for tell a quick little story. When I first became the CEO of the Community Foundation of Western Mass, which I'm not anymore, Megan Burke is, who's here, and we're so thrilled she is the next leader of the foundation. But when I first started, I inquired about what is this EDC thing? Like, how do we get involved? How do we do this thing? And was told that maybe the Community Foundation couldn't really afford it. It was probably too expensive for us. When Rick started, I reapproached the EDC to see what's the deal with this EDC, and don't you think you need the Community Foundation and the voice of the community here? And Rick said, absolutely. Come join us, be part of the membership. And next thing I know, I was clerk. But that's how he operates, and with that open arms, and that's why there's 93 dues pay, 94? 93, I'll give you 94 dues paying members, and why you're all here. And just wanted to put one shout out for all of us who care so deeply about this community, standing together for the future with a real plan, with a real campaign to move this region forward faster, stronger, better, together. We need each other, and we need each other to put that plan together, and we can do that through the EDC. Thank you.
See, that's why I want you to come up and say really nice things, Katie. Thank you. Steve Lowell has been our treasurer for the last number of years, and he is moving to the Cape and has moved to the Cape. Steve was gracious enough to accept the offer to stand for election as the treasurer, but he didn't do it right away because he says, why would you ask me? I'm just the president of a small bank. And it's like, that's an important voice for the region and for our organization. We aren't all just big companies, and you're on the ground, in the communities. People know who you are, and it's a very different perspective than, say, somebody else would have from a larger company. So it's been a important voice, a real professional voice. Steve is one of the true gentlemen. If you have the opportunity to meet him and know him or call him as a friend, we're going to miss him. He has chosen his donation on behalf of, from the EDC in the name of Steve Lowell to go to the Greater Springfield YMCA, so that will be done. And Steve, would you like a word to say?
I just want to say it's really been an honor to be involved with the EDC. When I accepted, actually I think Kevin Van was the one who approached me and got me involved. I said, "What's this all about?" He said, "Don't worry about it. Come on, you'll have fun. You know, you get to meet some new people." And he was right. And I've had both fun. I've met some people. I've learned an awful lot about the area. And you know, I come away from this session, particularly we had an opportunity to meet with Jay Ash this morning. Energized, and I know that's what Jay's going to talk about, so I'm not going to steal his thunder, but it's so important. This organization is so important to the area. It does great work, and I've just been delighted to be a part of it, and I look forward to what you guys can all do going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And our chair is not leaving, because she will stay on the executive committee as she as the immediate past chair. But Trish Canavan has been a phenomenal chair for the last 2 years. And, you know, when we talk about whether it's internships, there's a program for that now that's now at the EDC, that's because of Trish Canavan's vision and leadership. When we talk about the Anchor Collaborative and looking and supporting our smaller businesses, and helping our minority-owned, our women-owned businesses move into the supply chains and workforce issues, those are all initiatives that the EDC now are mainstays and an important part of who we are, an important part of our mission. Needless to say, she constructed, with the help of certainly many of you in the room here today, the mission statement and the strategic plan in 2020, which we live by every single day. Those are changes, impactful changes that have been made because of the leadership of Trish Canavan, and we've been fortunate at the EDC to have her as our chair, and she can truly say she has made a difference, and we are a different organization today than we were just 2 years ago. So I wanted to thank Trish personally for her years of service and support of myself and the EDC. I know she will continue to be that strong voice on our executive committee. She has chosen that her contribution go to Tech Foundry, not a surprise. But we did check that just to make sure before we did it. But I want to thank Trish for her leadership and her friendship, and bring her forward for her chair's report.
Thank you so much, Rick. I think I'd start with thank you to pretty much everybody in this room, the EDC staff, my fellow board members, my many community partners and colleagues that I see here today. You have all served as thought partners and catalysts for action, right? Together, I love, Katie, what you said, right? Stronger, better together, faster, all those things we've been trying to work on, and everyone in this room has been part of that, so thank you for that. As I complete my term as chair, I'm so happy about the significant progress that we've made together, and also about what's to come. And Rick referenced some of those things. You know, I think we are about to wrap our 3-year strategic plan, and I see my co-chair, Pete Carmichael from Six Flags. Thank you, Pete, for all your work. The growth of Springfield Works and Candilis, your leadership, and the many, many people who have helped to position Western Mass as a national leader in thinking about innovation and workforce development, and how do we move the needle in meaningful ways for all in our community. The DEI initiatives, Yamara has seized this for the EDC, and I look forward to its continued growth and impact outside of the walls of the EDC as we look at what this means for our region and how we can be of service to helping other organizations strengthen already strong commitments to DEI. The Cyber Center of Excellence at Union Station, certainly this is not an EDC accomplishment in and of itself, but the EDC had a critical role. The addition of VVM to the EDC, to strengthen our commitment to entrepreneurship. The launch of, about to launch a new 3-year strategic plan next year, and our work to build that. And I think also importantly, the development of annual plans tied to the strategic plan. What are we trying to do? What does success look like? How do we know? And using that as a rallying point for the organization, the affiliates, the members, so we can make progress on behalf of the region. I've said so many times before, I'm so bullish on Western Mass. We have a unique set of strengths and opportunities, and as we were talking about with Jay Ash earlier, assets, which allow us to collaborate, innovate, pilot, and iterate ideas. I think there are a few things that we should be very, very proud of and keep top of mind as we consider how to continue to make progress together in building an equitable, thriving economy for all, and ensuring that Western Mass continues to be a great place to live, work, raise a family, build and grow your business, and learn. I think just a few things that I would identify in that area. We are small but mighty, so the agility, the collaboration, that this notion of, it's not 6 degrees of separation here, it's 2 degrees of separation. And I know when I talk to people in the Boston area, it's hard to get to people. If I want to talk to Keith Ferry of Wayfinders of Boston, it's harder for me to get to him, right? We have a unique ability to come together and reduce and eliminate silos. I think that we are an ideal, because of sort of our smaller size and stature, I think we are an ideal area to pilot and innovate new ideas. And again, we're seeing some of those pilots come through the Anchor Collaborative again, and Springfield Works again. I'm so very proud, for example, of the Cliff Effect pilot that we worked for 7 years to pass through the state legislature. I'm so proud of that work, and I think that we, again, are going to potentially create something that will be a model that could scale statewide, nationally. So again, we came together to do that, and that's the power of our collaboration. The resources that we have, these anchor institutions, Bay State Health, UMass, Big Y, Comcast, so many that are so committed to Western Mass, and they're willing to think about doing things differently for the benefit of the region, but also for the benefit of their organizations. And I think it's important to recognize that. The incredible natural beauty and assets we have here, and I think, unfortunately, we will be happy about our climate resiliency, and that makes me sad to recognize that as an asset, but I also feel lucky that I live in a place that we have water, right? And so far, that's a good thing for us. Our educational institutions and training institutions of all types, and our walkable downtowns and lower cost of living, all incredible assets upon which we can continue to build to benefit all. As I hand over the figurative gavel, I'm still waiting for my gavel, Rick. Am I getting that today, by the way? I just want to use it at my house, like at dinner, Anyway, I'm teasing. But as I hand over the figurative gavel to my friend and colleague, Christina Royal, I am confident that we as a region will continue to strengthen our collaboration and partnerships and seize this unique moment to continue to think big, to be energized, as Katie said and Jay said, to have expanded and new initiatives to benefit all of Western Mass, building again on the great work of the EDC and everyone in this room. I think that we can continue to double down on or create 1 or 2 North Star goals to which we can all commit. I am so convinced that we need to say, this is what Western Mass is working on, recognizing that we all have our organizations have different areas of focus, different priorities, but I think if we all say it's this thing or these 2 things or these 4 things, and here's how my organization is going to contribute, and we're going to collaborate on moving the needle on priorities that we identify, I think it could be significant progress on a new economic sector. And we can define, we've talked about clean energy, clean water, cyber. What is that? What are the pain points that we can solve? Is it the launch of impactful regional efforts, such as expanding a DEI initiative or a regional internship program beyond the pilot that we're currently doing with UMass? Or is it something entirely new that we identify together through this strategic planning process that we're working on? Again, I'm bullish on Western Mass, and I look forward to working in partnership with all of you to achieve great things. If you're not currently involved, please come join us. There are committee opportunities and lots of work to be done. So in closing, I'd just like to say thank you again for the opportunity to serve as board chair. It's been a real honor, truly, and a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see what's next. Thank you. Sorry, I guess I'm so excited about ending my speech, I forgot who I was supposed to bring up. Next coming up is, hang on, is me. I'm next. Look at that. All right, so I am not ending gracefully. That's all right. A little bit of humility is a good thing. So I am closing. Oh, wait, I need to call if there's any old or new business. No? All right, excellent. So I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn this annual meeting of the membership. Thank you. Second. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Thank you so much. And it's still me. Now I'm going to call to order the annual meeting of the Board of Directors of the Economic Development Council of Western Mass. And I am making a report of the Executive Committee regarding the election of officers to a 2-year term. In accordance with the bylaws, the Executive Committee recommends to the EDC Board of Directors this slate of officers as presented to be elected to a 2-year term. Chair Christina Royal, President of Holyoke Community College. First Vice Chair Gus Kim, Vice President and Legal Counsel, MGM Springfield. Second Vice Chair Sam Skura, President, Bay State Medical Center and Senior Vice President of Hospital Operations. Treasurer Jamie Kelly, Senior Vice President and Team Leader, M&T Bank. Clerk Cesar Ruiz, President, the Golden Years Home Care Services. I'd like to call for a motion to elect the officers of the board as presented. So moved. Thank you. Second? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Terrific. Thank you so much. Congratulations to everybody. And now I would like to make a recommendation of the Executive Committee regarding the election of the EDC Executive Committee to a 2-year term. Okay. So Chair Christina Royal, President of Holyoke Community College. Vice Chair Gus Kim, Vice President and Legal Counsel, MGM. Second Vice Chair Sam Skura, President, Bay State Medical Center and Senior Vice President, Hospital Operations. Treasurer Jamie Kelly, Senior Vice President and Team Leader, M&T Bank. Clerk Cesar Ruiz, President, the Golden Years Home Care Services. At Large Charlie Demore, President, Big Y Foods. At Large George Arwady, Publisher and CEO of The Republican. And immediate past Chair Tricia Canavan, President, Tech Foundry. I'd like a motion to approve the Executive Committee members as recommended. Thank you. Second? Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you and congratulations to everyone that will be serving on the Executive Committee. So I am now very pleased to introduce my friend and colleague, President Christina Royal of Holyoke Community College, as the newly elected chair of the EDC. Welcome, Christina. Congratulations.
Thank you, Tricia. You definitely have big shoes to fill. I appreciate your leadership over the last couple of years of the board, and I look forward to working with you all in this new capacity. I'm definitely finding a theme when I hear all the ways that Rick has managed to get people to join the EDC, and it's probably no different when I started as well. I was brand new to the region at that time, coming in as the new president of Holyoke Community College, and I had some important questions for Rick about just understanding how we looked at the economic impact of higher education, and so I'm asking him all these questions, and he's like, I think you'd be great on the EDC. Like, these are the great questions to ask, and somehow now I'm board chair. So, but I am really, really excited to be in this role, continuing to support the EDC in this new capacity, but I really believe that we have something very unique here with the Western Mass EDC. One of the things that I hear every time I go to Eastern Mass and even some other regions in our geographical expanded region is they really talk about how well we come together as a community. And it's really wonderful that we have so many really critical business leaders and community leaders around a table to be able to talk about the issues of our region. And I think that is something very unique. I think it's a huge asset to our community. And our world has shifted a lot since COVID. And I think we have an opportunity to think about how we want to re-engage ourselves in these conversations. I'm very excited that for our next speaker that we have coming that joined us earlier today. But we have a huge opportunity in front of us. In some regions, getting all of the key leaders here in a room like this is the big task. For us, we're already coming together on a regular basis. As we work towards more inclusion with our table, inviting small businesses and other folks that haven't historically had a seat at the table, but being able to continue this conversation that really is the best intersection of all of the different sectors that we bring, strengths as leaders, and perspective and the lens through which we look at our community. And for that, I think we have such an opportunity for figuring out how we want to position ourselves in this next chapter in a post-COVID world. As business leaders, it's really amazing to see all the ways that people have transformed our community, helped to pivot your own businesses, but also we really do have a core tenet, I'd say, of partnership. And I really appreciate that about our region. I know it's a strength. I look forward to seeing how we can continue to harness this in the context of Western Mass EDC and expand it. And then I want to end on one last point. When I think about the work that we have done, and Tricia and Rick recounted a lot of successes of the EDC, I am really so proud that we're really looking at all topics. We're looking at the political lens of what we can do to really help businesses thrive in Western Mass. We're looking at it through an education lens of what is the pipeline of workers to be able to support the businesses and that you have a strong employee base. We're looking at it from the lens of new sectors. We're looking at it from the banking lens of, how are we able to fund and finance the different projects that we have going on in this area. There are so many aspects that come together, and I think that's what really helps us illuminate some really creative ideas of how we can move forward. So I'm really looking forward to us to continue to expand our partnership, to continue to expand the table and who we have represented and who we are inviting into this conversation. And I'm also looking forward to continuing to generate new ideas so we can ensure that Western Mass has a good future, not only today, but also tomorrow. So with that, I want to invite the past chair back up to introduce our speaker. So Tricia Canavan.
Okay, last time you'll hear from me today, I promise. So there are so many perks of being board chair of the EDC. One of the best is that you get to pick the speaker at the annual meeting where you retire. So I am very pleased to welcome Jay Ash. I'm sure many of you know him already, but he is currently president and CEO of the Mass Competitive Partnership. He's the former secretary of the Commonwealth's Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development, and prior to that was a longtime champion of Chelsea as executive director of housing and development, as well as the city manager for many years. During his various roles, Jay has consistently demonstrated his affection for and commitment to Western Mass. I've also been very, very inspired by conversations with him about economic development, possibilities, If we think big, what can we do together? So when I had the opportunity to pick the speaker, Jay was my choice. So thank you, Jay, for making time to come out. Please join me.
Hey, everyone. I was going to say that I came out mainly to be able to stop at my favorite ice cream place on the way back. If you haven't been to Elsie's Creamery in Ludlow, woo! So you all are standing between me and my chocolate frap on the way back. But I was going to say that I came out for that, but I hope we have this recorded, that I am a perk. Is that what you said, Tricia? I'm a perk? Where is Tricia? I'm a perk. That's nice to know. Not a perp, a perk. I had to make sure that I heard that right. It's great to be with all of you. I really enjoy being out here with so many people, and especially with the organization, Western Mass EDC. No obstructed view here. Is this okay? Okay. Western Mass EDC, congratulations for all of you being involved in an important organization. As secretary now almost 5 years ago, what I quickly learned is that there are people on the ground in regions that know so much more about what's happening in their regions and on economic development than I will ever know. And I had already had a pre-existing relationship with Rick Sullivan. I had an existing relationship with many of you. And by coming together with the EDC, I have found that my job as secretary was better. And made much easier. And now that both Rick and I are no longer parts of administration, some might say we're no longer anybody, it's nice to have Rick continue to advocate for Western Mass and coming to Eastern Mass when meetings require to continue to advocate for what's important out here. So to all of you, thank you for being involved in a very important organization that continues to have a voice in Massachusetts. And Rick and I have actually traveled through New England now and have met with our New England counterparts to talk about opportunities here. So thanks for that. I am the president of the Massachusetts Competitive Partnership. I want to emphasize that at the front end of that, Massachusetts, not Greater Boston Competitive Partnership, but the Massachusetts Competitive Partnership. So I get the pleasure of working with 19 great CEOs, including our most recent new member, Mark Kerouac from Bay State Health. So Mark, thank you for joining us. Elbows are going to be flying in the boardroom because Roger Crandall and I would take turns making sure that one of us talked about 413 whenever an issue came up, and now Mark's at the table as well, so we've got even more elbows flying. We're a business association. What's unique about our business association is that the CEOs themselves have to participate in the work. Have to sounds like really tough because I think they enjoy participating in the work. Mark, our first board meeting was not like every other board meeting. We had Governor Healy come to our board meeting, and Mark was right in the middle of discussions with her about healthcare and about the importance of economic development in Western Mass. Our CEOs come together. I don't advise their individual companies, although I'm available to do so. If you need help with brain surgery or anything like that, let me know. I'm your man. But instead, I get to work on their collective interest in a stronger Massachusetts economy. That manifests itself in a number of ways. We work on education and workforce development. We've created our own training program, administered through the Mass Association of Community Colleges. We have our own training program. And Brian Moynihan, who's our board chair, is the CEO of Bank of America, one day in a board meeting was saying, you know, I always go over here to hire entry-level people. They're four-year graduates. They look like me. They come from Harvard. They come from MIT. Why can't I go over here and get people who are diverse, people who may not be college graduates, but with given a little bit of training, could come in and contribute to our companies, not in jobs, but in careers, pathways to great careers. So we've created our own training program and are going through our third cohort now and looking to expand that throughout Massachusetts. Our companies have put up, we believe that there's going to be as many as 400 a year that get trained, and think about now taking people who have just high school degrees, but giving them the training so that they can have a great career and enjoy a great life. So excited about that. Do a lot around education, vocational school, community colleges. Well, one of my favorites, and Holyoke Community College and Stick, and others around the Commonwealth. We focus on social and economic justice. Have done a lot of work around supplier diversity, a lot of work around DEI. Very excited about the work we're doing there. Innovation and entrepreneurship, an important part of our work and an important part of what I think about when I come out here. I still have my Valley Venture Mentors shirt that I wear on occasion, and you'll see tweeted out on occasion. So very much love talking about Valley Venture Mentors. So do a lot of work around innovation and entrepreneurship. We're going to talk more about that here. We focus on the overall competitiveness of the Massachusetts economy, a place that I'm a little bit concerned about right now. I should say a lot concerned about right now. And lastly, and I'm very proud of this, we've added a fifth committee that focuses in on environmental sustainability, recognizing that climate change is an existential threat to our economy and to our well-being. So work with great CEOs, get an opportunity to talk about all these issues and others, and it's really important to all of us to continue to focus on those and the other things that are important that make Massachusetts a special place to be. So I'm going to bounce back and forth every now and then. We have a problem here in Massachusetts right now. The problem is that it's just too darn expensive to be in Massachusetts, especially for business, and it's too inconvenient to get anywhere. We need to work on that. I think part of the problem too that I would talk about is that we've become a bit complacent everywhere in Massachusetts. The old standards that have supported our economy started with eds and meds, and then gone off into all the technology that we all know about. They are still propelling our economy, but others are catching up. And in certain places, others are exceeding where we are. And so we need to continue to focus on what our strengths are, and also to think about areas of merging opportunities. Does this sound familiar? Because this is what we're going to talk about here today. The complacency that exists out in the world, in Massachusetts especially. There's this feeling, and I've contributed to it as well, we all talk about it, is this feeling of exceptionalism in Massachusetts. That we're such a great state, and we've got so many good people, and we've got so many great institutions and businesses that people will, of course, gravitate here and want to live here, and in some respects, pay extra for that privilege. And the fact of the matter is that we are all of those things, but so on a lot of other jurisdictions, and again, people are catching up and surpassing us in so many ways, and so cost does matter, and the cost of doing business here in Massachusetts is something that's a real concern. In general, I want to share with you some takeaways about where Massachusetts needs to be a leader and where Western Mass needs to be a leader. First, in population growth. If you're not growing, you are not going to be able to fuel the economy that is presented before us. Worse off, if you are retreating, that is a real problem. If you're losing young people, if you're losing people who are entrepreneurs, if you're losing companies, that's a real problem. And so we need to take notice of that. Housing crisis exists throughout Massachusetts. Now, it's a little bit cheaper out here than it is in eastern Massachusetts, but it doesn't feel that way if you live out here. And especially doesn't feel that way if you're struggling to make ends meet and you need a quality, affordable roof over your head. It feels like it's a challenge. Job growth is so critically important. And I admire lots of companies out here. Lots of you are doing well. Lots of you are creating pathways for people. But job growth is an area of concern. And then just generally business investment growth. So think about these four things. Population, housing costs, jobs, and business investment. So I was a young legislative aide at the State House. I want you to think about those four things. I was a young legislative aide at the State House, and we used to get things printed down the street. This is when, back in the old days, you had to actually go to a print shop and wait for the print shop to be done. So I'd be in this print shop around North Station, and there was a sign on the wall. The sign said, "Good, quick, cheap. Pick two." I sat in that lobby for the longest period of time, And I looked and I tried to figure out the variations of good, quick, cheap, pick two. And I said, wow, that is really something. If you want something good and quick, it's not going to be cheap. You want something quick and cheap, it's not going to be good. I went through the whole thing. Well, think about those four things I talked about. Population, housing costs, jobs, and business investment. It's hard to have any of them if you don't have all of them. And so we need to focus an agenda in Massachusetts, and that's what we do at MACP. And you all need to be thinking about this in terms of your own Springfield, Western Mass development agenda, economic development agenda, that you need to be leaders in all of these areas. Now, this is the part of the bad news story. I can't talk about the good news without talking about the bad news. Bad news is, you already know, your population is down, it's going down, it's projected to go down. It doesn't have to be that case. Sometimes you need to recognize where the problems are so that you can fully address them, and if you're not made aware of them, time can go past and all of a sudden you say, geez, I wish I had focused on that sometime long ago. Your population is projected to be going down. You have a higher unemployment rate than statewide and the national average. And the overall number of jobs that you have in the Springfield to Connecticut corridor is down significantly. It's important for us to talk about that because if you don't realize it, then you can't correct it. And so that's the negative part. Everybody can pick up their forks now and knives and not worry about stabbing themselves, but that's the negative part of my little speech here. The question would be, why would I come out here and be optimistic about the opportunities that exist in Western Mass? And there's so many reasons why. First of all, our economy is unsettled, right? You all feeling it? Like the old standards just no longer play. I would say there's a new paradigm, and the paradigm is still to be written. For Massachusetts, the paradigm has always been bricks and mortar around education and medical institutions. Meds and eds, bricks and mortar. No longer play anymore. Right? The world has opened up. What the pandemic has done is has shown the entire economy and everybody in the economy that you can be somewhere else, and that being tethered to a building, being tethered to a region, being in sectors where those buildings host no longer play. That's the bad news. The good news is there's a great opportunity there, isn't there? I mean, if you don't have that bricks and mortar in your place, there's an opportunity to bring people and investment to you. Massachusetts has the highest rate of hybrid work in the country. Now, some of us are initially concerned, oh no, people are going to go to Colorado, people are going to go to Washington, people are going to go to Florida to work. What we're starting to see is that, yes, there are some of those people out there, and the job shed has increased significantly, so companies in Massachusetts can pull from almost anywhere. But there's a need to be proximate as well. So you don't have to be there, but you need to be proximate to there. Doesn't that sound like being here? Right? So you already started seeing it. You saw that there were lots of people that had accents like mine that came this way during the pandemic and found the wonders of Western Mass and wanted to stay. There's an opportunity there. People still want to be in cities. It's important to recognize that. There's lots of folks that migrate out to the suburbs and rural areas and love their 2 acres, 3 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres. But by and large, cities are the place to be and will continue to be the place to be for a long time. Opportunities in cities, it doesn't need to be Boston, it doesn't need to be New York City. Opportunities to be in cities where there are great things to do. See if this sounds familiar to anyone. Great things to do, great places to eat, great places to recreate, terrific employers, great educational institutions. People want to be there. And the fact of the matter is that your lower cost of housing will make it easier for people to want to be here. You have great infrastructure. I don't think you all realize that all the time. Like, I know what a hassle it is to get into Boston. I experience it from the North Shore. I live up in Danvers, and I experience it in the North Shore. As secretary, I got to drive all around the state and got to see the traffic that everyone sits in, and we all like to complain about traffic, and I get it. This new economy accounts for opportunities for people to not have to be at the desk at 8:30 or 9 o'clock in a certain place, and to have the flexibility of maybe not coming in on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday when most people are coming in. The infrastructure you have here is terrific. The trains, the planes, the highways are all terrific. And I'd stack your colleges, I'd stack your attractions, I'd stack your businesses up against anyone. In fact, as it's already been alluded to here in our previous meeting, there's a familiarity and connection that you all have that, frankly, I'm a bit jealous about. And it's one of the reasons that I loved coming out here. I loved walking down in your downtowns and various downtowns and places and running into people all the time. I get jealous about all those things. So I think you have a lot to be excited about here. Was mentioned, I was city manager in my hometown of Chelsea. I was the second city manager. We had mayoral leadership for a long time before city manager came. The last 5 mayors in Chelsea were all indicted, convicted, and sent to state service. We were next to Boston, and yet we were one of the most impoverished. We were once part of Boston, and yet we were one of the most impoverished places in the state. We lost population. We were losing jobs. There was a negativity that you could feel. It was a big chip on everybody's shoulder. And I got the opportunity. It was my hometown, so I knew where all the bodies were buried, and I may have buried a few of them myself. I got the opportunity to lead my hometown for 14 years. Rick has had an opportunity to be mayor. There's no better job. As much as I love being secretary, Rick, there's no better job than leading your hometown. And we put together a business agenda, and the business agenda was not easy. Not everybody agreed with it. It wasn't fast in how it had an impact, but now, these many years later, it's turned around the local economy. It's made resources available to city government that allows city government to focus on so many things. So I'm going to be brash or bold, I don't know. I'm going to suggest that there's a Western Mass business agenda to be had, and you all have it, but you don't know it. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that. Done a little bit of research, both for this speech and in economic development, and there's a really interesting article that I read. Sorry, I can't tell you who wrote it. It's a really interesting article that I read, and 2 points that I want to share with you. Knowledge is more important than land. Knowledge is more important than land. All of us that have been in economic development, land is the thing, right? But land no longer is the thing. Think about the economy that we're in and how important knowledge is in the economy. And a subset of that is that connectivity, being connected into that knowledge, is more important than production. Now, we still need production. Thank you all for being in manufacturing. We still need all of that, but connectivity is important. Knowledge and connectivity. I talked about a Western Mass economic development plan. I want you to imagine for a minute that there's an area somewhere. Let's call it a corridor. Imagine that a corridor existed. Let's imagine that corridor has two airports, including an international airport, has great connectivity by train to important economic places. It has the interstate, and you can get to places like New York and Boston in quick order. Imagine that corridor. Imagine that the corridor may not be growing in population just yet, but still has a large amount of people. In fact, imagine that corridor has the 20th largest population base of similar corridors around the state. Imagine that corridor has 42 colleges and universities, 42 colleges and universities on a corridor. Imagine that corridor has 3 of the top 100 universities in the country. Imagine those universities and colleges have 225,000 students. Imagine that corridor is home to major companies, both nationally and internationally. Imagine that corridor has terrific attractions and great medical institutions. You'd probably be thinking to yourself, that place is going to be too expensive to live, but that corridor actually has housing, single-family housing costs that are lower than the nationwide average, and certainly in in Massachusetts. Imagine that corridor. What would we call that corridor? Let's see, maybe something like the Knowledge Corridor? You all already have the answer. Not only do you already have the answer to a great strategy for Western Mass, you are ahead of the curve. The problem is you didn't work the Knowledge Corridor enough, and it's tough. It really is tough, especially when it goes across states. And for those of you, you all know what it is, but New Haven, Hartford, Springfield, all the way up to Pittsfield. You were ahead of the curve. Some of you really dedicated to it, and then, one thing leads to another, and it's, no, that's not going to happen. We need something new. Human nature, an observer of human nature. Human nature is always, we need something new. Instead of working that thing that should be working, it's always easier to get the new thing going. And so people have been searching for the new thing, but when you sit down and look at what the world economy wants these days, knowledge and connectivity, you already have it. So if I was in charge of Western Mass, if I was lucky enough to be in charge of the Western Mass business agenda, the first thing I would do is not commission a new study, but I would get all the old ones out. I would dust off all the good work. I've seen them. I've contributed to some. The Western Mass EDC has done some of them. I'd get all the colleges and universities in the Knowledge Corridor, all the colleges and universities, by the way, who need something themselves because the world has changed and education is no longer, for educational institutions, is no longer a sure thing. They're under pressures themselves. All of them that need to band together. I'd prioritize a knowledge-based economy. I'm not going away from those other things that we do well. It's an and situation. You don't have to make that choice. It's an and situation. But the emerging areas of technology, some of them talked about here today, AI, quantum computing, cybersecurity. By the way, I do want to highlight again Rick Sullivan and the Western Mass EDC contribution to cybersecurity effort here in Massachusetts. I'm now leading that. My organization, MACP, was deeply involved in that. I'm the nonprofit president of the board there. I've, as a result, had to change my passcode on my phone. It's no longer password, it's password 1. So you should all feel very comfortable about me being in charge of cybersecurity for the state. I'd set up entrepreneurial goals in each of the colleges and universities in each of the communities. Valley Venture Mentors, does this sound familiar? Spark and Holyoke, does this sound familiar? I'd make it easier for graduates of those entrepreneurship programs to then move into our communities. And I think there's plenty of opportunities. We all know that there are vacant spaces here, there, and everywhere. There's all kinds of opportunities. In the downtowns of those communities, I'd promote individual strategies for downtowns, but I'd also promote regional strategies for the downtowns. You have special downtowns here. I'd promote regional strategies for those. My regional strategies would focus on business development in the downtowns. It would focus on bringing market rate housing to the downtown. Market rate housing, people with disposable incomes who sometimes are willing to take a little bit more edgy a living environment. Some of us aren't ready to live in a downtown just yet until it already develops out and changes its character. But some people are looking to be pioneers, willing to be pioneers, have great amenities, strong transportation networks. To support the Knowledge Corridor, Rick Sullivan has said broadband 1,000 times, 10,000 times in Boston, and will continue to say it, but broadband is important. I'd create investment zones with capital to support the emerging entrepreneurs in those investment zones. I'd even go as far as to suggest that perhaps there's a reduced tax or a no tax zone for new companies that are expanding. I'd get all the colleges out to the vocational schools and the comprehensive high schools. I'd get all the vocational and comprehensive high schools out to the middle schools. I'd be talking about career. I'd be talking about technology. And I think that is the basis of, and in fact, I know that's a basis of a working strategy. The thing is, are you willing to commit to it? And this is where it all turns back to all of us in the room here. I had a 8th grade teacher who used to say, whenever you point a finger at somebody, hey, they ought to be doing this, your thumb always points back at you. We are all the thumbs in the economic development strategies of Western Mass. We need to make sure that as we're saying that they ought to be doing this, we are doing it as well. We're providing time, we're providing treasure, we're providing talent. We're pushing each other to do more and more and more. I'd adopt a grow first strategy. It's been my experience as secretary that we spend a lot of time going around to other places trying to get people to fall in love with the places that we've already fallen in love with. There are plenty of companies here, there are plenty of companies in Western Mass that could expand if you were giving them an opportunity to do so. A sector of the economy that I think you already know this, but you need to continue to build on is a tourism sector, and I think that tourism can provide great jobs, but also introduce you all, introduce others who are not familiar with your area to here. I just recently bought a house in Maine. We rented up there for 5 years. If you told me I had to go find the place, I would have never found the place, but I fell in love with the place because I had rented up there. Why didn't I come to Western Mass? When you bring the Atlantic Ocean closer to Western Mass, I'll actually get here. But the point is, bringing in more people, terrific assets, major tourist attractions here. You should build on that. And I'd continue to work on manufacturing. So I'm going to wrap up with this. You need to grow your population. You need to promote housing options. You need to focus on jobs that are available today and tomorrow. Medium, short, long-term strategies. What government needs to do, what business needs to do, what the nonprofit sector needs to do. You need to support business growth and recognize that business growth is about community growth. Oftentimes we have people who think of business growth and that somebody's going to become wealthy. Yeah, the whole community is going to become wealthy. And you need to do more of that. And you need to make your workforce as ample as you can. So with all due love for all of you, I have always told my friends that I appreciate more when my friends tell me that I'm not doing something well as opposed to doing something well. I'm going to argue that you're not coordinated enough. And your support from the Western Mass EDC, your support for the Western Mass EDC can help to make that happen. I would argue that you're not extensive and you're reach enough. I would argue that you're not intentional enough. I would argue that you're not aggressive enough. And yet I would argue that you're all going in the right direction, and there's so much opportunity that you can take advantage of. I talked about my Chelsea business experience and thinking about intentional and aggressive and the like. I actually had to do something that was the toughest thing I ever did as a government official. I had to adopt an urban renewal district and sit in a room of 400 business people to tell them that I was government, I was coming for their property. What an awful thing it was, except that on one of the parcels that I ended up acquiring, on one of the parcels, a car had been there for so long that a tree had actually grown up through the car, not around the car. There were too many properties around here where the owners are disrespecting the property and disrespecting you, the community, and so aggressive actions need to take place. I did a 10-acre urban renewal area. Got rid of the junk cars, got rid of the buildings that were blowing away with the wind, got rid of the noxious uses that took place. At the time I started it, there was one hotel in Chelsea. That hotel, you rented rooms by the hour, not by the night. By the time we got done, we had 3 hotels in that district and 6 in the community. We had major market rate housing taking place in places where there were fight clubs going on in the empty factories that existed there. We actually got the FBI to build their regional headquarters there. It is possible to do that. So my end is a bit of encouragement. You have great bones, as we say in the business. You have great infrastructure. Infrastructure includes people, and includes institutions, it includes what we think of infrastructure and being highways and train stations and airports. You have a tremendous commitment to each other. What you need to do is to look in the mirror and say, in this period of time, there is an opportunity that is never going to exist again, never going to exist again. In this period of time, there's an opportunity that if I reach deeper, if I recommit, if I put aside my own self-interest and figure out what the greater good can be, if I put faith in people that should have their faith put into and lead when they need leadership and support when they need support, something very special can happen. And that something very special you've already designed out. It's just a matter of implementing. So I want to thank EDC, Western Mass EDC for its work. A lot of what I've learned about economic development over the years, I've learned from Rick and many others of you. I especially want to thank you for continuing to fight the fight and promoting Western Mass in the way that you can. There's lots of people here, lots of businesses here, lots of entities here that are ready to be called upon for a smart, coordinated plan of action. I would encourage you to do that, and I think that the results can really turn the knowledge corridor as you envisioned it and the other sectors that we've talked about into leaders in Massachusetts. And I think that other people will be looking at you and saying, boy, it would be great if we could do something like Western Mass did. So Rick and Tricia and Christina, thanks for having me. Everyone, thanks for having me. It's been a great pleasure to be with you.
I'm not really next, but I'll take a point of privilege here. So thank you for being here. Thanks for the thoughts and the leadership and the friendship and always willing to answer the phone on the other end. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So just two real quick points of order. I do want to thank my staff, which is the best in the business. Ziamara is over there at the door. Our newest member, Kayla, thank you for being here. And Aurora and Carrie, and I think everybody knows Ann and Karen, who had to go back and do something else. And of course, our IT and keeps us running and honest. And we all have to change our passwords. So, you know, we just have to keep adding another exclamation point. So I think I'm up to 27 exclamation points. So thank you, Steve, for everything that you do. Thank you all for being here. There is still desserts out there, so please take them with you. If you've got time, the bar is still open, and there is more food, so please take part. And with that, Madam Chair, I will turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Jay, for joining us today. It's always good to have a friend of the region that is willing to highlight your strengths, but also say you need to step up more and take advantage of the opportunity that we have afforded to us now in this environment where there is instability, confusion, uncertainty about the future. There's always opportunity to be able to leverage that and improve our region. So with that, I want to adjourn the meeting. So I guess I have to call for a motion. Second? All right. All in favor, say aye. All right, we are adjourned.